example, 552 people would have been victims of farm attacks because of the motive of robbery. As I understand it, that's what it seeks to depict.
The emphasis here is on what the apparent motive was.
Yes.
Not what the crime was, but what the motive for the crime was.
Precisely. And then what I'm interested in is right at the bottom, which are the totals, the sums, the percentage sums. You will see there, right at the bottom, the report concludes that for the period in question, of the farm attacks for the relevant period, 89.3% of them were motivated by robbery. And if you move 2 rows to the right, you have a reflection of, at least as far as the report is concerned, that only 2% of farm murders were motivated by racial or political motive. Do you see that?
Yes.
Now, let me put a proposition to you. I mean, of course, you would not have compiled this table, and you nonetheless gave evidence on it briefly yesterday. The table itself does not reflect, or anywhere in that report for that matter, it reflects as accepting the 2% as the correct percentage. It does not reflect of that percentage how many, in other words, it does not give a breakdown of the races of the 2%. I'm putting that as a proposition to you.
Yes.
Yes. Nor does it give an indication of what specifically were the racial or political motives. So in other words, it doesn't say of this 2%, 0.5% was caused by racial motives following the singing of a song, for example. It simply says it's racially influenced.
Yes.
It could well be that it would have been a white person killing a black person, for example. That falls within that 2%.
In theory, yes.
Yes. It could have been anything. The point is there are many variables that are not reflected in this table.
Yes.
Yes. In fact, and I'll take you to the pages if you want, but ultimately you say in your book, the link between farm murders and the motive is a controversial issue because of lack of information in that regard.
Yes, it is controversial, but for more than the mere fact that there's a lack of information.
Yes.
Partly because of the lack of information.
Just then, as a general proposition, it's really difficult to pin down motives that lead to farm attacks and farm murders.
Correct.
Yes.
Just a bit more. You may proceed.
I don't think it's impossible. I think the appropriate research has not been done.
But as it stands, there is no evidence that you find credible that specifically links farm attacks and farm murders to specific political motives.
No, there is evidence.
No. What I'm saying to you, Mr. Roets, is this. There is no evidence, and I think this is what I thought that's what we agreed on. I am saying there is no evidence that suggests, or any credible evidence. In fact, let me just read to you what I just said. I had said to you, in your book, you say that the link between farm murders and farm attacks and the motive behind those attacks is a controversial subject because there's... Okay.
Mr. Ka-Siboto, how long are you going to be?
Your Lordship, I was actually about to address you on that because my attorney has just indicated what time it is. I just want to put one last question to the witness, then perhaps you can adjourn and resume tomorrow.
Okay.
You testified yesterday, and this is going to be part of my evidence, part of my submissions in due course. There seems to be quite a lot of, at least in my view, problems with the referencing and the research of the book. And let me not go there yet. One example of this is the comment you made yesterday, the extract you read from the book. For interest of time, I'm not going to refer to it unless you ask me to, where you say you had taken text from the Facebook page of Mr. Malema, not so?
Yes.
He is going to come here and tell this court that he's never had Facebook before, and he doesn't have it to date. And your testimony to this court is that you do proper research on your work and you stand by it. What is your response to what his evidence will be, which is that he doesn't have Facebook?
I did not leave out, I did not exclude that possibility in the way in which I approached that issue.
Then perhaps let's go there.
Just for my benefit, just be reference so I can see which footnote, which page.
My attorney advises me it's on page 208 of the book. 208, Your Lordship. Let's start at the second paragraph of that page. There you say, meanwhile, a Malema supporter started publishing updates about farm attacks on Malema's Facebook page every few hours. The page had almost 12,000 followers at the time. One of the posts stated, 3,000 farmers dead since '94. We lost more people than that. We are far from being even. So kill the boer, kill the farmer. In another post, the same Malema supporter wrote that 8 farmers had been murdered on farms in Limpopo since the beginning of February 2010. When asked about his intentions behind the post, he responded that he had never killed anyone, but that he did not have any sympathy for farmers who were murdered. Quote, "Sue me for not shedding a tear," close quote. Another Malema supporter posted on his public page, and I will not read the extract. Now, it is clear what the intention of all of this is, and I'm putting it to you that Mr. Malema never has, nor does he have Facebook. Do you have a response to that?
Yes, my response is that I remember that. I remember this witnessing back then, and I remember writing this. Is there was a Facebook page which was called Julius Malema, and it had a picture of Julius Malema, and it had 12,000 followers. And the point of this section is not to say that this is what Mr. Malema is saying. The point of this section is to say this is what people who describe, who identify as supporters of Mr. Malema are saying. So that's what the emphasis here is on the fact that Malema supporters are saying the following thing. It might be true that the page, the Facebook page in question, was not administered by Mr. Malema. The point, however, is...
No, sorry, hold on, Mr. Roets, sorry. The question is clear here. Do you accept that Mr. Malema has no Facebook page, neither has he ever had one?
I can't accept that because I don't have sufficient evidence if that's true or false. If he says that, then maybe that's the case.
Okay, so it's possible that he doesn't have it. So to then positively affirm that Mr. Malema supports...
Sorry, there's an objection.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's just it's a technical thing about Facebook works. The term Facebook page is ambiguous in the sense that one can have a Facebook profile, which is for a person. So I have a profile that is me. And then there's a page.
Your Lordship, I'm so sorry, my dear friend. I just need to understand whether he's leading evidence or he's making a point about the cross-exam.
No, I want, in other words, the question to be, I want to say that there is an ambiguity about what a page is and a profile is.
But it seems, Mr. Oppenheimer, the witness seems to understand the question quite well, and if his answer maybe needs to be clarified, you could do that in a reply.
I suppose what I want to know is what is being...
Oh, okay.
What's being said is that Mr. Malema testified that he doesn't have a Facebook page. And that's an ambiguous term because it should refer to one of two things. One is a personal profile on Facebook, and the other one is a page, which is more like a business site than a page, for example, that you set up. And it might be that, I just want to know what it is that's being put forward in this. Is it a page or a profile?
Yes.
Your Lordship, can I please refer the court to page 373 of the book, which is a reference to what I've just read out. It's a footnote 40. It says there's reference to the text I've just read, screenshot from the Facebook page of Julius Malema in March 2010. Now, the proposition, and perhaps I don't need to take the point any further, the point I'm simply making is there's a firm, 3 times, just on these 2 pages, firm reference to the fact that this is a Facebook page that belongs to Mr. Malema. I'm putting it to Mr. Roets that he's never had one. It doesn't seem to contest that evidence, and therefore we should take it no further, my Lord. And if this is an opportune time, then perhaps we can adjourn.
Well, would it not be fair to also put what, for clarity purposes, put what Mr. Oppenheimer has said, the distinction between having a profile or your profile appearing and having the page itself to the witness so that the witness can clarify whether he understands it or not?
Your Lordship, there is no difference between a profile and a page. And taking cue from my learned friend, I'm going to lead evidence before this court. What typically happens with social media, you get onto Twitter, for example, or Facebook, you can only have one thing, which is a profile or a page. It's semantics. Ultimately, the owner of the page or the profile has control of what goes on it and what doesn't go on it. The suggestion from the book is that Mr. Malema owns such a page or profile. Technically speaking, there's no difference between the two. What you do have are accounts that are in support of Mr. Malema, for example. You've got support groups of Mr. Malema, for example. They are either pages or profiles, semantics. Ultimately, the question is, does Mr. Malema have a profile or a page? And the answer is no. And that is what the book was insinuating, and it is not so.
Okay. Thank you. As I said, it can be dealt with in evidence in reply, and also probably we could deal with it at the end when the case has been argued. Thank you very much. We will at this stage then adjourn. Mr. Roets, you're still going to be under oath. We will continue tomorrow at 10 o'clock. May the court rise.